In this video, we're going to show you our 50-shot fiberglass mortar rack in action. This is a used rack, but this is what we sell on pyrocreations.com. It's a good sturdy rack. It's got the removable mortars, good wood construction, screwed together and stapled. It's a good solid rack. We've used this one several years and it's still working really well. We're going to use a 60-gram canister shell in action, and we're going to show you how to fuse this up and what kind of fuse we use, and show you the rack in action. Alright, when you buy your 60-gram canister shell, whatever brand you want, they usually come with these, or they will come with these. We're not going to use these stinking single shotters. We're going to use this massive 50-shot. So loading it, you just grab your canister shell. We've got them all unpacked here. You grab a hold of the end of your fuse, the way these are made, and you just pull it right out. Drop it right in. And just keep doing the same thing. Grab your fuse, pull it out, drop it right in. And we're going to fill this thing up all the way to the end. Alright, now that we got all the canister shells loaded, I want to point out that the fuse is going to be longer than this. We cut off 2 inches, well, we left about 2 inches of fuse. Cut off roughly 2 inches or 1.5 inches or so, but they don't have to be right on, but leave approximately 2 inches of fuse, because you have that excess fuse which will start the other fuse. So you don't need that, so be sure to cut off your excess fuse. Also, when you're loading your canister shells, make sure they hit the bottom. That way they're not setting up off the bottom. Make sure it's clear of any obstructions and whatnot. Alright, here's the most important part of the whole deal. You can have too many shells going off at once, and a lot of people call that sky puke, which I do not like myself. So we're going to show you how to have the most spectacular show using our fusing and the technique of fusing this exactly right to make your show as wonderful as possible. We're going to use our 15-second per foot cake fuse, and we're going to use our 10-second per foot pink perfect fuse. And we're going to show you exactly how to fuse each row to make this work perfectly. Alright, next step, we're going to grab your 15-second per foot cake fuse, and we're going to start in the center, and we're going to work all the way back. Now what we're going to use is, we sell bags of zip ties, and these zip ties, you want to use these. A lot of people use it. I started out when many years ago, and I started out with the old bread ties, and they just don't work very well. These are they hold the fuse very tight, and what you want to do is you want to start out, and let me see if I can get a little close-up of this. You want to kind of start out, make sure your fuse is pointing towards, if the fuse is burning this way, make sure that your fuse is pointing towards the way of the burn coming towards the fuse. So you want to come out, start with it, and leave about 3 or 4 inches of fuse towards the end where you start. That way you have somewhere to ignite it, so you can put your igniter there, or whatever you need to do. But start out at the end. You want to get your zip tie, and you want to start about 1 inch from the end. I know you can't see this now, but we'll show you a close-up here just in a second of what I've done. So there's what we have, and you want to leave about 1 inch, and since the burn's coming down this way, it's more likely to ignite the fuse. So every one of them is going to be turned this way, and what you want to do is you want to come all the way down with the zip ties. I always use 2. It's a good fail-safe. There goes one. Like so. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work our way all the way back in the center with a 15-second cake fuse. Alright, you can see here we have it zip tied all the way down the center row. You want to leave a little space in between if you can. Doesn't matter, that's up to you how you want to do that, but it doesn't really matter a whole lot because they're going to go off about the same regardless. You got 15 seconds here in this per foot in the center. Now what you want to do here at the end, you want to come down roughly 6 inches or so, and you want to cut this off. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab the 15-second fuse again, the cake fuse, and we're going to zip tie 2 strands together. We're going to do 1 strand for this row, the second row in, and we're going to put another strand for this row. So what we're going to do is we're going to zip tie just like we did all this row for these 2 rows. So what you're going to do is you're starting out slow, and we're going to get a little faster as we fan out on the second and third rows, and then we're going to show you on the outer rows how we're going to do that. So what we've done here, we've come down. I showed you how we left that longer. Really, you don't need it that long, as long as you have somewhere to tape to keep that from flopping around. But we've zip tied 2 more strands, which will be long enough to come over together. So when this strand comes down and hits these 2, you want to come across with the 15-second, and you're going to double it up so they're both going together at once. And you've got these long enough, which come down, and we're going to zip tie these together all the way down. And then we're going to speed up, since we've got 1 at a time going 15 seconds, then we've got 2 at a time fanning at 15 seconds, and then we're going to come in, we're going to speed up, and we're going to fan out with a 10-second. All right, as you can see, we're finished tying up these 2 rows here. You can see we come up on the end here where we put the 2 zip ties, coming out with the 15-second to the next 2 rows, and come out to the end. And you see that we like to make it look pretty by cutting the zip ties off. Next, what we're going to use is the 10-second Pink Perfect fuse, and we already have 2 strands cut, which is going to come here and go down the next 2 rows. So when it comes down here, hits these 2, goes all the way down, going to hit the 10-second. So what we're starting out with, slow, speeds up to 2 angles, and then speeds up even more to the next 2. And we're going to show you how to button all this up and make it look pretty, then we're going to shoot it for you. All right, here's our finished fusing of the 50-shot rack. Again, as you can see, we have started 15-second, come out, fuse to the end. These 2 rows, we hit to the 10-second perfect fuse, come to the next 2 rows, and we fan out all the way down with the 10-second Pink Perfect fuse. Now, what you want to do too, maybe sometimes at the very end, you might want to leave a little bit. That's the beauty of this, to go maybe to another firework, and you can fuse it here and go to your next cake or rack or whatever you want to do. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to grab this tape. Now, this is only you don't have to do this, but I always do it with my racks. It's just an insurance or fail-safe. And what we want to do is we want to start from the very end, and we want to get this tape, and you want to go all the way down the entire length of the fuse and kind of just roll it over. It's like a kind of a leader pipe, cheap way of covering this fuse up. The reason I do this is whenever these go off, there's a lot of rain of coals that come down. So all this here, when these are shooting, this will be covered up, and it'll keep it from premature ignition. All right, here's the finished results. As you can see, we just used a cheap masking tape to go over the fuse. Again, that's just cheap insurance to keep the coals from starting the other fuses. It works really well, kind of protects it from that, so you don't have to do that, but I suggest doing it. We're going to fire this off with our 1Q Alpha Fire. You can buy these in 4 or 12Q, and this is just a 1Q remote, but you can buy the 4Q or the 12Q or 1Q remote. But we're going to set this off with our 1Q Alpha Fire. All right, we're going to wire this thing up. So real quick, we're going to show you how the Alpha Fire works. It's very simple. We have our Talon igniter here. This is I believe a 5 meter. Take your strip off the end, which has already been taken off on this one. Make sure your wires are about like that right there. It don't matter which wire goes where. You grab your Alpha Fire, you stick one wire in the red, pull your black over, stick your other wire there, and it should look about like that right there with no wires crossed, and that should be ready to go there. Then you take the end of your Talon. You can stretch this out as far as you want from your firework, depending on how long of a Talon you got, since we sell different lengths of Talon igniters. So this will be, when we set this out in the field, we'll stretch this out away from here, so there'll be no embers fall on it. I like to get my fuse here, and I like to do a small V cut into it, such as that. Now, you don't have to do this, but again, I always do it because I don't want my fireworks shows to fail. If you can see inside here, if you open your Talon igniter, you'll see a small, I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a small nichrome wire in there. I like to set that nichrome wire right directly into that little V that I cut into the fuse and do it a little squeeze, and that usually works every time. So let's give it a shot and see how it goes. All right, we're about 100 yards away from the shoot site, and we're going to count down. Hopefully this will give you a good angle of the rack. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we have ignition.